I'm a bartender, and a regular customer's wife has been obsessively trying to contact me. I'm a 23M bartender at an upscale cocktail lounge, and one of our regular customers, a woman in her late 30s, has been increasingly crossing boundaries with me. At first, I thought she was just being friendly and chatty, but now I'm realizing this has become something much more serious, and I don't know how to handle it. I've been working at this place for about 6 months. There's this couple that comes in every week. Let's call the husband Mark. They're both pretty wealthy, always tip well, and seemed like normal regulars at first. The wife, Diana, started coming in alone about 3 months ago, always sitting at my section of the bar. Initially, it was normal conversation, asking about cocktail recommendations, talking about her day, the usual customer small talk. But things changed when I mentioned I was taking online business classes at night. She got really interested, started asking tons of questions about my goals, telling me how impressive it was that I was working full-time and studying. She began calling me ambitious and so mature for my age. About 6 weeks ago, I ran into her at a coffee shop near my apartment. I was surprised because this place is nowhere near the upscale neighborhood where she lives. She's mentioned multiple times how she rarely comes to this side of town. We chatted briefly about coffee, and she offered to buy mine. I tried to politely decline, but she insisted, saying it was the least she could do since I always make her drinks perfectly. Since then, I've run into her at least 5 to 6 times around my neighborhood, at the grocery store, the parking lot near my gym, even at the laundromat once. Each time she acts surprised, but then launches into long conversations. She always comments on what I'm wearing, tells me I clean up nice outside of work, and mentions how Mark is always traveling for business and she gets so lonely. At the bar, she started coming in 3-4 times a week instead of once. She stays until closing, always sitting at my section even if there are open seats elsewhere. My coworkers have started joking about my admirer, but honestly it's making me uncomfortable. She's asked for my phone number twice, saying she wants to connect on a professional level since she works in business consulting and could help with my career. I've deflected both times by saying we have a booking system at the bar for reservations. Last week, she waited until the other customers left and told me that Mark doesn't appreciate her anymore, that they're basically roommates, and that she's never felt as seen and understood as she does when talking to me. She reached across the bar and touched my hand while saying this. I pulled back and said I needed to clean the glassware. 2 days ago, she came in with a gift, an expensive business book she said reminded her of me. I thanked her but said I couldn't accept gifts from customers per bar policy. I made that up. She looked hurt and said it was just between friends. My manager is this older guy who's pretty laid back. When I tried to mention that Diana was making me uncomfortable, he laughed it off and said, "Worse problems to have, kid, and that wealthy regulars are what keep us in business." He didn't seem to take it seriously at all. Yesterday was the worst. I was leaving work around 2 a.m. after closing, and as I was walking to my car, I heard someone call my name. It was Diana, sitting in her car in the parking lot. She said she happened to be driving by and saw my car was still there, so she waited to make sure I got to my vehicle safely. This parking lot is not on any route to her neighborhood. She would have had to deliberately come here. I feel trapped. I need this job. The tips are good, and I'm saving for tuition. But I'm legitimately starting to feel scared. What if she escalates? What if her husband finds out and thinks I encouraged it? Am I overreacting? Top relevant comments. You service industry vet NTA. Dude, this is stalking behavior. The running into you multiple times near your place. Her waiting in the parking lot at 2 a.m. None of this is coincidental. Document everything. Take photos if you see her car near your building. Screenshot any messages if she finds a way to contact you. This woman is escalating. OP's response. Thank you. I guess I kept telling myself I was being paranoid, but you're right that the parking lot thing crossed a major line. I don't even know how she knew which car was mine. I've never told her what I drive. You bartender life. This is sexual harassment. Gender doesn't matter here. Your manager is failing you by not taking this seriously. Can you go above his head to an owner or GM? You need to establish a paper trail now before this gets worse. OP's response. Our place is small. The manager basically runs everything day to day. The owner only comes by once a month for financial stuff. I'm going to try to catch him next time he's in. You, legal advice. For real. Document, document, document. Keep a log of every interaction with dates and times. If she shows up near your home or workplace outside of normal customer interactions, write it down. If, when you go to police, this evidence will matter. Also, check if your state requires one-party or two-party consent for recording. If it's one party, record your interactions with her. Update 1. Hi everyone, thank you for all the advice and for making me realize I wasn't crazy. I need to clarify some things and give an update. First, some clarifications from comments. About the coffee shop. She bought my coffee before I could stop her. She was already at the counter paying when I walked in. I accepted because making a scene felt worse at the time. Looking back, I should have insisted on paying her back. About my manager. I've tried to talk to him 3 more times since my post. Each time he either says he's busy dealing with vendors, or he brushes it off saying Diana is harmless and that I should be flattered. He's made comments like, when I was your age, I would have killed for that attention. It's frustrating as hell. About the parking lot. I talked to our security guy. We have one guy who monitors the lot on weekends, and he confirmed that Diana's car has been in our lot past closing at least 4 times in the last 3 weeks. He said he assumed she was waiting for someone inside and didn't think anything of it. Now for the update. I finally got to talk to the owner when he came in for his monthly check-in. I asked to speak privately and told him everything. The repeated coincidental meetings near my apartment, the comments about her marriage, the gift, and especially the parking lot incident. He listened more seriously than my manager did, but his response was still disappointing. He said that Diana and Mark are very important clients who've been coming to the bar since it opened 4 years ago. He suggested that maybe she's just a lonely housewife looking for friendship, and that I might be misinterpreting friendly behavior. He did say he'd talk to my manager about having another bartender take her section when she comes in, which I guess is something. But here's where it gets worse. That same night, Diana came in around 9 p.m. My manager, despite the conversation with the owner that afternoon, still sat her in my section. When I went to serve her, she immediately asked why I'd been avoiding her the last few times she came in. I said I hadn't been avoiding her, just busy with other customers. She then said Mark is going to be traveling for the next month for business, and she's going to be so bored and alone. She asked if I'd be interested in meeting up for coffee sometime to discuss business networking opportunities. She was persistent, saying it could really benefit my career, and that she knows people who are always looking for smart-driven young men. I told her, politely, that I appreciate the offer, but I'm too busy with work and school to meet outside of the bar. She looked upset and said something like, "You're always working so hard, you need someone to take care of you." That made my skin crawl. I told my manager right after that I was uncomfortable serving her and asked if someone else could take her table. He sighed and said fine, then sent our other bartender, Jake, over to her. Apparently she asked Jake where I was and why I wasn't serving her. She stayed for less than 30 minutes and left without ordering much. Since then, I've started noticing her car parked on my street. My apartment building has street parking, and 2 days ago, I saw her SUV parked across the street when I got home from class around 10 p.m. Yesterday, it was there again when I left for my morning shift at 11 a.m. I took photos both times. I called the non-emergency police line and asked what I could do. They said unless she's threatened me or done something explicitly illegal, there's not much they can do. They suggested I could try for a restraining order, but I'd need to prove a pattern of harassment, and even then it might not get approved since she hasn't threatened violence. I'm honestly scared now. I've been staying with my buddy from school for the past 2 nights because I don't feel safe at my apartment. I haven't told my roommate the full story. He just thinks I'm crashing at my friend's to study. Some people asked if I should tell Mark. I've thought about it, but I'm terrified it'll blow up in my face. What if he doesn't believe me? What if he does believe me and causes a scene at the bar and I lose my job? I don't know what to do. I need this job, but I'm starting to feel like I need to choose between my safety and my income. Update 1. Comments. You stalker survivor. Please take those photos to the police station in person and file an official report, even if they say they can't do anything right now. You need this documented. Create a paper trail. The fact that she's now parking near your home means this is escalating quickly. You are a restaurant manager. As someone who's managed bars for 15 years, your manager and owner are failing you. They're prioritizing profit over employee safety. Start looking for other jobs, seriously. Even if it pays less, your safety matters more. OP's response. I've started looking at other places, but everything pays significantly less or isn't hiring. I'm trying to hold out until I finish this semester. Update 2. I don't even know how to write this, but I need to get it out and I'm too ashamed to tell anyone in real life. Last night I worked a double shift, 11 a.m. to 2 a.m. I was exhausted and just wanted to get home. Our security guy was off, so the parking lot was empty except for my car and one other, a coworker who left right before me. I walked to my car, and as I was unlocking it, I heard a car door open. I turned around and Diana was getting out of her SUV, which was parked in the corner of the lot. My stomach dropped. She walked toward me smiling, acting like everything was normal. She said, "I thought I'd wait for you to make sure you got to your car safely. You work such late hours." I immediately said, "Diana, this isn't okay. You need to leave." Her smile dropped. She said, "Why are you being so cold to me? I thought we were friends." I told her we're not friends, that I'm her bartender, and that's it, and that she needs to stop following me around. She stepped closer and said, "You don't mean that. I see how you look at me when you make my drinks." I backed up against my car and said, "I don't look at you any type of way. I'm just doing my job." Then she put her hand on my chest. I completely froze. She said something like, "You're so tense, you need to relax," and started moving her hand down toward my stomach. I couldn't move. I just stood there. She leaned in closer and whispered, "Mark doesn't have to know. I can help you so much with your career. Just give me a chance." I finally found my voice and said, "Please don't touch me." She pulled back and looked at me with this weird expression, part angry, part hurt. She said, "You're really going to reject me? Do you know what I could do for you?" I managed to get my car door open and got inside. She stood there watching me as I drove away. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely hold the steering wheel. I went straight to my friend's apartment where I've been staying on and off. I still haven't gone back to my own place. I can't sleep. I keep replaying it in my head and thinking about what I should have done differently. This morning I went to the police station and filed a formal report. I showed them the photos of her car on my street, told them about the parking lot incident, everything. They took the report but basically said that unless she's made specific threats, there's not much they can do. They said I could try for a restraining order, but it's unlikely to be granted based on what happened. They told me to be vigilant and to call 911 if she shows up again. I called in sick to work. I told my manager I have the flu. I can't face going back there knowing she might come in. He sounded annoyed and said I need to find coverage for my shifts. I feel disgusting. I'm 23 years old and I just let someone touch me without fighting back. I keep thinking about what I could have said or done. Maybe I gave her the wrong impression somehow. Maybe I was too friendly when serving her drinks. I know logically it's not my fault, but I can't shake this feeling that I did something wrong. This isn't the first time something like this has happened to me. I had a problem with an older manager at my previous job who wouldn't leave me alone, which is part of why I left that place. I promised myself I wouldn't let anything like that happen again, but here we are. I don't know what to do. I can't afford to quit this job. My tuition payment is due in 3 weeks, and I'm barely going to make it as is. But I also can't keep going to work and risk seeing her, or worse, having her follow me home again. Some of you warned me this would escalate, and I didn't take it seriously enough. You were right. Update 3. Hi everyone, I'm sorry for the delay in updating. The last few weeks have been chaotic. After the parking lot incident, I stayed with my friend for 5 days straight. I called in sick for 4 shifts in a row. On the 5th day, my manager called and said if I didn't show up for my next shift, I'd be fired. I couldn't afford to lose the job completely, so I went in. Before my shift, I asked to meet with the owner again. This time I brought printed copies of everything. Photos of Diana's car on my street and in our lot, timestamps of when she'd come into the bar, screenshots of my conversation with the police. I told him about the parking lot incident where she touched me without consent. He actually took it seriously this time. He apologized for not acting sooner and said he'd handle it. He said Diana and Mark would be asked to find another establishment once he figured out how to word it diplomatically. But here's the thing. I found out from Jake, the other bartender, that Diana had been calling the bar asking when I'd be working. She'd called 4 times in the week I was out sick. The host had been telling her he didn't know my schedule. I worked that one shift, and then I quit. I sent an email to the owner explaining everything in detail and saying I couldn't continue to work there while fearing for my safety. I felt terrible about leaving without notice, but I couldn't do it anymore. The owner called me the next day. He said he understood and didn't blame me. He also said he'd spoken to Mark and informed him of the situation. According to the owner, Mark was shocked and apologetic, and said he and Diana were separated and in the process of divorcing. He claimed this wasn't the first time Diana had become fixated on younger men, and that she'd had a similar situation with their personal trainer. Mark apparently told the owner that Diana has been dealing with some mental health issues following their separation and that he'd tried to get her help, but she refused. He said he'd make sure she stayed away from the bar and from me. I asked the owner if he could give me Mark's contact info so I could talk to him directly. He said Mark preferred not to be contacted about this, but assured me that Mark was taking it seriously and handling it on his end. 2 days after I quit, I started getting friend requests on my Facebook from accounts with no profile pictures and generic names. I ignored them, but then I got a DM from one of them saying, "Why are you avoiding me? I just want to talk." I immediately deactivated my Facebook. Then the calls started. Blocked numbers multiple times a day. I never answered. After 3 days of this, I changed my phone number. I found a new job at a corporate restaurant chain. It pays less and the tips aren't as good, but they have actual HR policies and security cameras everywhere. I had to take out a small loan to cover my tuition payment, which sucks, but at least I'm employed again. Last week, I saw Diana's SUV parked outside my apartment building again. I called the police, and they came and checked, but she was gone by the time they arrived. They said, unless she approaches me or tries to contact me again, there's not much they can do. They suggested I consider moving if possible. I can't afford to move right now. I'm stuck in my lease for 7 more months. I've started parking in different spots and varying my routine as much as possible. I leave my apartment at different times each day. Sometimes I Uber to work instead of driving so she can't track my car. I feel like I'm living in constant fear. I check over my shoulder constantly. I don't go anywhere alone at night. I've had to tell my roommate the truth about what's been happening so he can be aware and alert. Yesterday, I finally told my parents. My mom wanted me to move back home, 4 hours away, and my dad suggested hiring a lawyer to send Diana a cease and desist letter. I'm considering the lawyer route, but I don't know if I can afford it right now. I'm angry. I'm angry that I had to quit a job I liked and that paid well. I'm angry that I have to live in fear in my own apartment. I'm angry that the police can't do more. I'm angry that this woman feels entitled to invade my life like this. But mostly I just feel exhausted. I just want to finish my degree and move on with my life without constantly looking over my shoulder. If anyone has advice on how to proceed from here, I'd appreciate it. Should I reach out to Mark directly somehow? Should I invest in a lawyer? Should I just try to wait this out and hope she loses interest? Thank you to everyone who commented on my previous posts. You all helped me realize this wasn't normal and gave me the courage to leave that job.